don't need to be a Wall Street executive to see that this war could produce some real economic hardship. Fishermen in Ireland are struggling with higher fuel prices and say many smaller scale operators are at risk of losing their entire livelihoods. The Irish minister responsible for fisheries was among those pushing for EU support during a summit last Monday in Brussels. Later in the week, he met with representatives from Ireland's fishing fleet. Tim Dooley is with us. He is the Irish Minister of State for Agriculture, Food, Fisheries and the Marine, and he joins us now from County Clare. Good to see you. The word you've used to describe the current situation for both farming and fishing, quite frankly, is stark. What can Ireland do right now in the short term to try and mitigate the effects of this?
Good evening, Paula, and thanks for the opportunity. And you're right, the volatility as a result of the conflict in Iran is having a very significant impact right across the economy, and particularly those that are dependent on fuel. Fishing enterprises are really challenged at the minute, and as you've rightly identified, the smaller ones. So the government is obviously looking at how we can put in place a support structure and a mechanism. But that becomes more challenging when there is no end in sight. There is no certainty here. We have some experience from managing the crisis that resulted from the Russian invasion of Ukraine a number of years ago. And we did put in place some supports across the sector at that stage. But it's challenging now, as I said, particularly on the fishing side, because as well as the catching sector, the processing sector is also under pressure because they're looking at the potential for spiralling electricity costs, and they use so much energy in their cold stores. And of course, with no certainty in relation to supply in future months, there does continue to be considerable concern here.
And given the concern that you just outlined, I mean, no one really wants to deal with the kind of shock that you had to deal with in 2022 as well. But here we are. When we talk about both timeline and the price of fuel continuing to be elevated, if we're talking about either fishing or agriculture, what does your timeline look like? I mean, if this goes on for another few weeks, is everything going to be okay? Does your real fear begin if this continues for months and months?
Well, on the agricultural side, we're heading into one of the busiest periods. Within about 3 weeks, the cutting of silage, which is a very significant demand on fuel, begins. That's going to see, farmers and contractors and that under enormous pressure. So, any positive news that might come that would indicate a stabilization of the situation there would be helpful and welcome. But I think the keen observers recognize that even if the hostilities were to end right of way, it's not clear what impact there is on supply lines now into the future. It's not clear what refineries are operational and how long it will take for the supply lines to get back to normalization. So I think we're entering a period of very considerable volatility that will ultimately, regardless of what supports government can put in place, because no government can resolve all the cost implications emanating from this. And I think, as your previous report identified, you are going to see a period of some inflation in prices generally. I think the European Central Bank are looking at the possibility of increasing interest rates again to modify that upward inflationary pressures to bring some stability back to the marketplace. So I think, regardless of the situation in Iran, and hopefully it comes to a conclusion sooner than later, there will be a tailspin from this particular conflict that I think will remain with us for a considerable number of months.
Yeah, a stark outlook indeed, as you point out. I want to ask you, sanctions have in some respects been lifted on Russia, Belarus, Iran even, for both oil and fertilizer. I mean, I know you're certainly talking to Europe about having a whole of Europe response here, but, how long will Ireland support this lifting of sanctions, given what was their intended purpose in the first place?
Yeah, I think that's, in addition to the very real impact that it's having on the lives and livelihoods of so many people, I think that's one of the consequences that's particularly negative, the fact that the pressure has now been potentially lifted from Russia. Russia invaded Ukraine something that is not accepted at all or conscionable right across Europe. Strong European support for continued sanctions, and we don't want to see those lift. From an Irish perspective, of course, because we don't have oil or gas reserves, we have been making significant leaps forward in the renewable energy sector. We have a very strong pipeline now of projects off our coastline to capture wind, to future-proof ourselves from an energy security point of view. We want to bring on additional wind resources to generate clean, renewable electricity for the decades ahead. So if there was any doubt, and there isn't in the minds of those of us in government, but there's always detractors around climate change and renewable energy. But I think once again, when you see the impact that this conflict has had, together with what happened when Russia invaded Ukraine, it signals the importance of energy security, and particularly in Western Europe. It's important that we continue our pathway and our journey towards decarbonisation, reduction in fossil fuels, and the capturing of clean renewables at close proximity to us. And that will help us to power our economy into the future. We have some very strong plans around data management, data centres, and large energy users, in which we expect for the next decade we'll be able to promote with a clean energy drive.
Yeah, and this will continue to be an issue, obviously, and be shocks to the system. Inevitably, as you say, will change the energy architecture in Ireland and beyond. Mr. Timmy Dooley, thanks so much for being with us. Appreciate it.